and he's like drinking wine, and they like cut to him like it's a news show, and they're like, Doctor whatever, how's the wine? And he's like, it's wine's great. It's sweet berry wine. So that's all I can think about. I'll share it to you later. Sorry, Tabitha, you have to cut this all out now.
Welcome to Recapping Romantasy, hot takes on hot literature. Who are we?
We are me, Emma.
I am Maura.
And I am Tabitha. Recapping Romantasy contains mature content from fairy smut to dragon rider torture to monster genitalia. Be sure to check the episode notes for content warnings and the link to the transcript. Are we still doing transcripts?
Yeah, actually, we're not.
Okay. Yeah, I figured I said
And
that.
They transcribe onto Apple, but for whatever reason, they don't do it on Spotify yet.
We're also recording in a format we have never tried before, so bear with us if everything is a mess today.
Yeah.
So what we are doing today is another monster romance, and this time we each read a book in the Cambric Creek series by CM Nascosta. The Cambric Creek series supposes a world wherein a multitude of animal-human hybrids and cryptids all exist together. So like werewolves and minotaurs and lizard people and mothmen and sheep
trolls.
people and satyrs and dryads and like everything, and they all live together with humans.
I think of it, I don't know, did any of you watch BoJack Horseman on Netflix when it was out?
No.
I know what you're talking about, but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
It's very much like BoJack Horseman, but erotic.
Extremely erotic, I would say.
I wrote a review of one of these and of the book I read. Like I put it in good notes because I'm like the only person who actually seems to write reviews. But I described this book because I haven't read the other ones, but I've described it as like if Spencer Gifts and Hallmark Channel wrote a monster erotica novel. Like that's the vibe.
Literally the only review I've ever added to a book on Goodreads was a guy who was being inaccurate about the burial practices of ancient Egyptians. I actually, and Mara was part of this.
I was part of it.
We actually like looked at his sources and like looked them up, and I was like, he's quoting Herodotus. Who quotes Herodotus?
Morons quote Herodotus.
God, that's hysterical and so on brand for you.
I was basically like warning people. I was like, don't take anything this guy says seriously because he's not a historian.
Well, that, and he used like a
children's book.
Yeah, which is not a source. You can't be using a children's book as a source in a non-fiction book published for adults. Please. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So anyway, yes, we each read a different book in this series. Mara's going to summarize hers, and then I'll do mine, and then Emma will do hers. And I will say, when I was rereading this story, I had forgotten just how erotic it is. Yeah. And I was kind of horrified that I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be talking about this in front of people.
I have a lot to say in this book.
Mine's that bad. I mean, it's bad, but I will be honest. I read this back in early April, and it's about to be June. I didn't reread mine. I just skimmed through it again. I made like a lot of highlights. No, I really didn't need to. But so I'm sure there's some sexy parts that I missed, but I just basically was like, they did it, move on.
Right. Yeah, I don't.
Okay, now I give a blow by blow.
Oh my God, amazing! I love it.
Maybe Tabitha went a little too far down the road.
That's what we need, though.
Getting an A+ on this assignment.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start with the first book in the series. Mara?
Yeah. All right, the first book is called Morning Glory Milking Farm, which is about a minotaur. It's a minotaur romance with a human female character. So we start off with Violet is our main character. She's watching a training video for Morning Glory Milking Farm, which is a semen collection, quote, farm, unquote, where minotaurs donate their cum so humans can have Viagra. That's how this is going on in this world. This is how Viagra is created.
Amazing.
Yeah, so in the world, it's important to note that there are humans, just are humans, and then there are minotaurs are other crazy creatures that exist in this world, but the humans seem to be kind of like the main, I guess,
There's more,
species.
there's more humans than there are of
Right.
the other
There are
creatures.
more of them. So they have the ability to kind of ask minotaurs for, hey, we'll give you money for your semen so we can create Viagra for ourselves because, we hold all the power but we'll give you some money for your cum.
Do you
So
think they drink it?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think they actually do kind of like take it and they make it into pill form somehow.
I was
That makes more sense.
honestly, like picturing them like cooking it down or something into like a fine powder and then pressing it into little pills. Do you think it would stop real men, like human men, from taking it if they knew?
Oh, absolutely.
If they
I
had to
kind of
drink
like this
semen.
theory. I'm going to start a rumor that real Viagra is made from cow semen, so people will stop taking
Well,
it.
I don't know if that would stop them because like a lot of
Oh my god, yeah.
the pea farms, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
actually it's true.
Violet is a millennial in debt. She's out of work and desperately wants to avoid moving home. She also really wants the social markers of wealth, like name brand orange juice and Starbucks. Even though in this universe, it's called overpriced burned coffee. But I know
Amazing.
exactly what you're talking about, CM. I know we see
Yeah.
you. Okay, so Violet must decide if she's going to take this job because it is super fucking weird. You see, Violet is a human and she lives by regular human standards and has ideas about sex work. But in this weird Bojack Horseman universe she's in, other species have different ideas about this. So, what is sex work according to humans is simply work to other species. Like some species will go into heat and someone has to help them with that. Those people who are helping are not prostitutes or sex workers in any case. They're just people having sex because the other species needs desperate help. So, it's sort of like a medical job rather than a sexy job. So, but she's a human, so there are a lot of like taboos that she's going to have to get over if she's going to take this job. So this is an interesting beginning of what I sense is a greater theme in CM Nascosta books is like you lure you in with monster erotica and then subtly slip in some discussion of real world problems. It's kind of amazing, honestly, but I think she does it in all of her books. So just FYI. So Violet takes the job because she really wants that burned coffee and learns how to jerk off minotaurs. So the first half of this book is basically jerking off minotaurs. Violet learns how to get a speedy collection and get these minotaurs out the door while slowly realizing that this isn't actually sex work from the other species at the farm. She's the only human present at the farm, I should mention. Which is at Cambric Creek, which is like a multi-species paradise in comparison to Violet City, which is majority human and forces other species to get their species-specific produce from the bottom shelf of the corner bodega. Like that's literally a scene.
Discrimination.
That said, she never once tells her mother that what she's doing at her new job, and some of these minotaurs are seriously here for the hand jobs. So, is it not sex work? It seems to be straddling a line where the hand job technicians tell themselves it's not sex work while also admitting that it is.
Yeah. Interesting. So, is there like a special technique?
Yes. So each minotaur that comes in gets a file and they write down their preferences of how they like hand jobs to happen and occur. And at one point in the book, she is shadowed by a new technician who like doesn't do the hand job really that well. She kind of does it like a rote back and forth, and everybody's like, this isn't really doing it for me. And like at this point, Violet's like, you really have to do better. Otherwise, what will they need us for?
Is it like, I just want to know so much more. Like, is it like a checklist of like preferences?
Me,
is it like
there's actually quite a few details in this book about the like every step of the process.
Yes.
I need to read this one then.
Okay, I will get into the process now. So the process is the Minotaur gets up on what is this like a padded breeding stock, they call it.
Like a glory hole? Like what is it?
There is a glory hole.
Okay.
They stick the penis through the hole, and then like underneath the stalks is the technician who will basically give the Minotaur a hand job until they're ready to come. And then at this point, the tech will put like a device on their penis that is essentially an artificial vagina, and it like stimulates like you would with a dairy cow, and like all the semen goes into the device, and then it gets routed into these old-fashioned milk bottles. They are old-fashioned milk bottles.
I want to add my favorite part when I read this book was as I'm listening to this long-winded description of like the actual process, I thought to myself, oh my God, they're using actual like glass milk bottles. Pff, they better have an autoclave. And then literally like the next paragraph talked about the autoclave. And I'm like, good job.
Yeah, she does it. She has all those details in place.
Mhm.
But now you have to
She
ask
did the
how much.
research.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, okay, now we get into how much semen is collected per
Can't wait.
visit. Yeah. So usually the random minotaur will give about 24 ounces of semen.
Ugh.
So that's a lot. Can you
Yeah.
imagine 24 ounces of
No.
liquid ounces of semen?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you think she got this idea from like the fact that shampoo always looks like semen?
So there is a moment in here where they do have sex in the shower, and they have to get some and so all of that semen goes onto the floor of the shower, so she
Oh
has to they
no.
have to get out this like it's like a protein dissolver
Yeah.
powder that they like sprinkle.
Oh, that would be such a pain in the ass.
Oh,
Because
so
he's like,
gross.
otherwise it's gonna clog up the shower and then I'm gonna have a real problem. I'm like,
Ew,
wow,
ew.
the
Yeah.
details here are just
When
amazing.
when I went to college in undergrad, we are like my friends who are boys, they got an email that was like, please stop jacking off in the showers. You're clogging all the drains. And I was like, that's fucking gross because we as women have not received that email and we have like just a plethora of hair that falls off and clogs all
Yeah,
of the drains.
yeah.
Which I'm sorry, but where else are they supposed to do it when they're in college?
In a napkin, I don't know, like socks. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Ew.
Yeah, gross.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, all right. So our problem eventually presents itself in the form of a very sexy minotaur that Violet finds herself weirdly attracted to. It's the kind of attraction that after she gives him a hand job, she goes home and masturbates. This happens a couple of times. The
Does she
book does
see
not
him?
hold back. Yes. So when the
Oh,
minotaur comes into the room, she can see him, and
okay.
then he gets up on the stocks, and then she's kind of underneath doing her thing.
Oh, okay. I thought this was like an
Yeah.
actual like bathroom style like stall
No, so
glory
you can
hole.
see the Minotaur going in, like, she can tell, like, what his hide it looks like because he has a hide.
Okay.
Things like that. She's constantly talking about his hooves, like, "Oh, they're so polished," stuff like that. The book doesn't hold back on the whole milking process, like I said. They
Mhm.
are constantly talking about the hand jobs. Like, she gives so many hand jobs,
Good for
not
her.
just to this one minotaur, but to many minotaurs because she has
Mhm.
to, like, go through the whole process,
Mhm.
and there's, like, a very detailed backstory about the milking farm, all the different types of clients that go through it. There are
And
certain minotaurs that are called good little cows who like to be milked like a cow. So that's like a whole other side fetish. She gets into side fetishes of the
This
minotaurs,
is
which is really all
steep.
fascinating.
yes, but it's important to know that it is not sexy for Violet except with this one guy.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Mhm.
And
But
a couple of the minotaurs do definitely treat it like, sexual release. They're not so interested in the payment as they are
yeah.
getting the hand job.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, but still it's not sexy except for this one guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, like at one point they start talking and she's like, apparently got some bad coffee at a local place because like I said, most of this is about getting good coffee and name brand orange juice. um and so she's kind of talking about how she hates the coffee that she got, and he's like, oh, you should totally go to this local place, they roast their own beans. And she's like, yeah, I
Oh.
totally will go there. So they do wind up running into each other at the local coffee place, and she spends her hard-earned money on some honey lattes, so she's really going up there in the world, um through her minotaur jerking job.
Mm.
Um, she she gets from this meeting with him though at the coffee shop that he has a wife or a girlfriend, and she gets frosty immediately.
Yeah.
But no worries, like literally later that day he shows up and clarifies that he doesn't actually have a girlfriend or a wife. He's actually divorced and single. So hooray, she can
Oh, nice,
continue to
nice.
be
Mhm.
horny for him. But then her great aunt dies, and so she's
Oh.
gone for a few days, during which the new tech that I was talking about previously chafes the bull that she likes. So she comes back from the funeral and they're bantering about he was chafed. And he's like, "Where did you go anyway? I can't believe you left me alone for so long. My penis is chafed." And
Oh
she's
my
like, "I went to
god.
a funeral." And then she
Yeah.
starts tearing up in the room. And thank God he's like, "Let's get out of here. We can't do this anymore."
Yeah. He's a gentleman,
Because can you
guys.
imagine? Yeah, it's like I was thinking to myself as this was happening, like, can you imagine if they just went on with the hand job after she's like told him, like, yeah, I was grieving my great aunt who was like my grandmother to me, and then's like crying while she's doing
Well, have
it.
you ever had like someone at a coffee shop or like a waiter who you would see as like working while visibly crying? Even that's uncomfortable, and that's not even
Yeah.
jerking you off.
Guys, this is a crazy story, but so high school, like in between high school, college, I dated this guy, and I just like nervously talk, as we all know. So I was nervously talking, and we were like definitely like slowly getting closer. Like we were gonna have like a first kiss moment. But I was talking about like anything and everything that came into my head. So I was literally in the middle of talking about like my grandma and like what she was like dealing with, this like heart surgery that she was gonna have or whatever. And he just like leans in the middle of that and kisses
Oh,
me. And
see,
I was like, men are
man,
just
they're not even
insane.
listening.
One track mind, literally. Yeah.
Well,
It was
yeah, it's
funny.
important that this Minotaur was in fact listening to
Yeah,
her and
because
said,
he's a
"You can't give
gentleman.
me a hand job
Uh-huh.
after you told me that you're grieving your great aunt. Let's get out
Mhm.
of here." So they
He's a
go
good
back
guy.
to the coffee shop. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
he is a good guy. He is a good guy for a Minotaur who goes and gets his penis jerked off every so often for cash.
Yeah, for cash. For cash.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Okay, so they have an actual conversation that isn't in a semen collection room, which is great. They start dating from here. Like he starts to take her to museums and fancy restaurants. She stalks his ex online like a crazed new girlfriend would. You know, you really
Yeah.
feel
Mhm.
for her. They explicitly do not have sex because they are getting to know each other first.
Oh, okay.
But then he fingers her under the table at a restaurant and tells her that she's not ready for his gigantic cock. She has to
Oh my
work up to it with
god.
lube and fingers
Mhm.
in public.
Which I mean, I guess he is a
No,
minotaur.
so like
Um,
public sex is fine because he's a minotaur?
yeah.
No, I
I
meant the like working up to
they're
it,
working
but
up to it.
yeah,
But it does happen under a table at a restaurant, a fancy
that
restaurant.
is a
So
bit much.
Yeah, there's like a little public nudity in my book too, and I was like, "What?"
yeah.
Mine too.
Oh,
Mhm.
oh.
Mhm. Yeah.
Maybe monsters are just like more free, you know?
They
Well,
are actually it's something that comes up.
yes,
Oh,
they
oh,
are.
okay,
This is the
okay.
whole like Cambric Creek thing because now she's in Cambric
Oh,
Creek and she's like she's
got
kind
it.
of coming out of her shell. Remember, she was living in the city with the humans,
Got
but
it.
now she's working in Cambric Creek, and this is
Mhm.
like she also like runs into a vampire who's just like you will never go back, like things like that. So at the same time, the Minotaur's telling her things about majority culture and how terrible it is, and like we're
Uh,
all here together, like mixed up, and diversity is great, and interspecies relationships can work things
yeah.
like that. But then it comes time for sex. So there's some very interesting to me discussion of what the Minotaur did to those girls. They gave him in Greek myth, like the Minotaur is from Greek myth,
Oh,
and
okay.
so there's a whole myth about giving human sacrifice to the Minotaur. Um, and here's an actual real thing because she jokes that she's a sacrifice because in human world the people that were sacrificed to the minotaur were actually like sacrificed and killed, but he's like actually the real story is that the girls were so sexually crazed that they were given to the minotaur and none of them wanted to leave, so that the people wound up giving all their sex crazed girls to the minotaur and he ate them out all the time. Ha ha ha, do you get it? He ate them out.
Hmm,
Oh.
interesting.
Yes. So apparently the Minotaur lived a happy life in his labyrinth, going down on
Hmm.
his human harem, which is just wild.
Yeah, that's quite a take.
It is. It is. It's an
Mhm.
interesting take on myth. So anyway, he insists on Koi's having her come first before penetrative sex.
Again,
So they make.
he's a gentleman.
Yes, he's a
Mhm.
gentleman. He goes down on her. So as we all know, love interests eat out, and then they make a huge mess of the bed sheets, which are thankfully waterproof, but they also need like 3 towels. So like imagine that. Like, if you're having a hard time,
I don't want to.
find a 24-ounce liquid bottle and just dump it on your bed and see how you like it. That's how I can really think is like
Mhm.
I don't own waterproof bed sheets. I'm not doing that.
Well, who does? Like,
People with children? I don't know.
Minotaurs.
Yeah.
no, those are like waterproof mattress
Pads,
protectors.
right? Also, like, wouldn't waterproof bed sheets be like sleeping in a rain
Rubber?
jacket?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that can't be good. Like, not breathable.
You should really just throw down the tarp before you have sex with a
Someone's
minotaur.
getting a yeast infection.
24 ounces is 1.5 pounds.
Oh, yeah, it's 1.5 pounds of semen.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. So anyway, the story transitions into a happy ending. She gets a new job that isn't giving handjobs to minotaurs, even though she's like kind of anxious about it. She's like, "Should I get a new job?" He's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. It's giving minotaurs handjobs. Is that not a problem?" She's like, "No, of course it's not." And
Oh.
but she gets a new job anyway because I think like maybe it is sex work. It's really hard to know like where the line is being drawn here
Yeah.
in the book. So, but they live a happy interspecies life in Cambric Creek with their elf, orc, vampire, and mothman friends. Interracial relationships and inclusive communities are possible. Majority culture sucks. That's all the book's like inner theme. So all given to us through monster romance. So respect. And the Minotaur's name is Rourke. I completely decided that didn't matter. But anyway, also, yes, I did research how to collect bull semen. And yes, I do know how it is done. And I do know how much semen a bull typically produces, which averages out to about 6 milliliters if collected daily. So that's milliliters, not liquid ounces. That's about 0.2 liquid ounces. So sorry to disappoint the sexual fluid enthusiasts out there.
Well, see, but that's real bulls. That's not minotaurs. Minotaurs, make more.
I know so much about animal semen and how much they all produce thanks to you.
I know. I was
Yeah,
texting everyone like, "Here's how much semen this animal produces."
She's like, "Here's an elephant. Here's a whale." And I was like, "Please leave me alone. Like, tell someone else this. This is cursed information."
I was trying to watch a movie and ignore the text messages for a while. So when I looked again, there were 22 unread messages, and they were all about animal semen.
And then the other half of them were me pleading for Maura to stop.
I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry.
No,
it's
she's
gonna happen
absolutely
again.
not sorry.
All right. So my turn. This is book 2 called Sweet Berries. Our hero, Grace, is a marketing / PR employee at a farm just outside of Cambric Creek. The farm is named Saddlethorn. She had previously been married to a minotaur and was a wedding planner, but she got divorced 3 years ago. Her ex is a dick. He's constantly telling her that her hospitality degree was in party planning and that she needed to get a real job.
Rough. My sister's a party planner, basically.
So now she works at this farm. The owner of the farm is a centaur named Callum, and the business has greatly expanded their operations since he hired her. One of the other employees, who is also her friend, is a dryad named Kalea, who I assumed at first owned the farm because the tree that she's attached to is located there, but no, it's owned by the centaur, which is crazy to me that the creature eternally bound to the tree doesn't technically own the land it's on, but I guess that's monster capitalism for you.
We cannot be free of it.
No.
So the through line of this story is that Grace is super horny.
I remember
That's
reading
like a
this
through
book.
line in mine too. Yeah.
Yeah.
She hasn't been with anyone since her divorce, and she is overflowing with carnal desire. She has a thing with her Minotaur coworker Brogan that really has crossed the line from flirtation and innuendo into just outright dirty talk. So Kalea, the dryad, thinks Grace is a workaholic and convinces her to go out one night with a group of coworkers. Brogan gropes her under the table and basically starts to finger her.
Some more public fingering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is happening?
He invites her to go have sex with him in the alley, and she's like, I need to leave. And, because having sex with your coworker is probably a bad idea. So she gets up, goes home, and is like, woo, that was a close one. We almost crossed the line.
I mean,
which maybe I'm a prude, but getting fingered in public to me counts as over the line into real sex.
I mean, that's penetration
for sure.
no matter what. And it happened in front of all your coworkers and in public. It's like,
were they like aware of it?
No.
Okay.
Well, at least not that anybody says.
And yet, it does not make it better.
Well, here's the thing.
No, it doesn't. I was just wondering.
Here's the thing. A warning to all of you, I guess. If I ever found out that one of you was getting fingered under the table in front of me, I would throw a fucking chair at you. I would be so mad.
She would do it too. She really would.
Like, I don't
No,
know
she
why I
would.
consider that such a violation. Like, I don't want to be an unwilling participant in your weird sex games. So be warned. All right.
In the Oh my god, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay. So she
That's
decides, she gets home, she decides she needs to masturbate.
Again? Like,
Yeah, you know, after getting
didn't she
publicly
just come?
fingered, you need to masturbate.
She needs to finish it off.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if the fetish theme of the first book was size kink, I would say that the fetish theme of this book is voyeurism.
Mhm.
So she
Mhm.
gets, this is like kind of in the heat of summer when all of this is going on. So she gets even more turned on thinking about letting all of her neighbors fuck her on the street. Like that she'd go out there and just like present and let them do it.
Mhm.
And I was listening to this
Okay.
part of the audiobook on headphones as I was walking around my neighborhood, and I felt like a massive pervert. I kept impulsively checking that my phone wasn't disconnecting, and I was just like blasting this.
Here I was listening to this in the car, blasting. You know, in the height of May, and it's just like windows
Mhm.
down.
So yeah, it's the middle of summer.
going
It's hot as balls outside, and her window is wide open as she fingers herself. And she starts to hear like noises coming from the tree outside her window. She freaks out for a second and then thinks, meh, whoever it is, let's give them a show. So she keeps at it and kind of thinks about what kind of creature it could be. She hears some like hums and click sounds, and she thinks, ooh, maybe it's a lizard person, which apparently have two peni.
Can confirm they do in my book. Or do you mean peni is the question?
Is it peni or penises?
Yeah.
I think it's
I think
penises.
it's penises.
It's probably penises.
What
Penipodes.
language does penis come from?
Latin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably penises. I think peni's funnier though.
I think it's penises then.
It's
Yeah.
penises, but that's fine.
So she decides to grab a dildo, but not the Minotaur model, but rather the Goblin one because it's not quite so big.
Oh man.
She fantasizes about what kind of creature it could be again, and we learn that apparently Selkies come in a gust, like a spray. And can you possibly think of anything worse? Like that's the biggest possible mess to make from that situation.
Yeah. Like, have you ever stood around like in the ocean during winter, like near the ocean, and like you kind of get hit by some spray?
Just think about how it would get in your hair and like
Yeah.
on your face and like
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, I was picturing like, you know how some of the like cleaners have like a spray and like a
Yeah.
stream.
The continuous
I was
mist
thinking of what-
function.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like a hose. Yeah. It's just like a wide circle of
Yeah.
cum vapor.
Ooh, yeah. Or like the little towers that they have at the zoo where you can stand underneath them and they mist you.
Ugh. I can never go to the zoo again now.
So anyway, she orgasms and then falls asleep. This is all chapter 1.
Yeah.
Wow. How long was this chapter?
A lot happens. So the next day, she
Yeah.
argues with Kalea again about dating, but Grace still isn't interested. Side note, the interspecies dating app in this world is called Growler.
I love
I
that.
love that.
I love the little details that she puts in her books. It's just
Mhm.
like how
Yeah.
what like the good little cows in the first book were
Yeah.
just like so
Yeah.
Thank you for that detail. I needed to know that fetish.
Mhm.
So she goes home the second day and starts masturbating again and hears someone outside again. She starts dirty talking to the mystery person, inviting them to come a bit closer. She pulls out some sort of logistical sex pillow and the goblin dildo. But I mean, you really would have to have a logistical sex pillow in this world of monsters
Absolutely,
where
you
like
would.
everybody is
Yeah.
different sizes.
Yeah.
So long story short, something keeps flicking out and sucking on her clitoris.
Okay. When I first read this, and I've read this one, I'm like, what in the fuck is happening right now?
Yeah, so it's like sucking, like latched on like a vacuum. That's the author's words, not mine, like a vacuum. So she
I wish-
orgasms.
I'm not okay.
The look on Emma's face was just beautiful.
So she orgasms and falls asleep again. So now it's several days later, and Grace is having a busy day at work and thinking about how disappointed she is that her voyeur has not returned. About an hour before the farm closes, a Mothman shows up, nervous and asking about purchasing blackberries. Some quotes that are descriptions of him are tall and reedy with long, leanly muscled arms and legs, a solid looking chest, and a concave stomach. A thick mantle of fluff trailed down his neck. He also has wings, red eyes, and antenna, and he looks kind of like velvety. He's wearing no clothes, as Panzer human construct. But we see no visible dick.
Okay,
More on
fine.
that later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm picturing like Slender Man, but with like a bug head and wings.
A lot of debate I had with Mara when I first read this, and we think we've determined he has legs that kind of go a little backwards. You know, like you see
Yeah.
with monsters
Oh, okay.
sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, you know, the knees that go
Yeah.
in the
His knees
opposite
bend the
direction.
opposite way. Yeah.
Yeah.
He is very awkward and nervous. And when she tries to explain that there are no ripe blackberries right now, he lets out a disappointed buzzy sound, and she immediately recognizes that sound as coming from her voyeur. She confronts him, and he's super apologetic, saying that it was an accident, that he was drawn by the blackberries that she had laid out to dry, but then got distracted by her because she smelled sweeter.
Sweet berries.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she lets it go because she was acting debauchee as well. In chatting him up, she learns that his name is Merrick, and he is a research scientist focusing on pollinators and living nearby because he has a grant at the local university. So he's new to town. As they
Okay.
check the field for berries, she's like, I want to do it with him. So they work out that they will go to the observatory together the following night, then go back to his place. They meet up.
Okay.
She thinks about how cute he is. He gives her some flowers. There is a lizard couple absolutely bogarting the telescope. So they have to walk around chatting with each other for a while.
They have to get to know each other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she
Yeah.
learns that he has lived in human dominated areas all his life, and Cambric Creek is the most diverse place he has been. Grace insists on using their weekends to show him around. And then, just as an aside, Grace remembers when a moth family visited the farm a while back with a like moth toddler and a baby described as a caterpillar.
It's beautiful.
And this is where I felt like I was given that Doctor Strange punch to the chest into an alternate dimension, because I was reading along this cute little novel, and then suddenly I felt like I was forced to look at this caterpillar baby and reckon with the potential product of a union of these two characters. Like, are eggs involved, or would Grace give birth to a half human larva creature?
Yeah, this is
Ugh.
more
I hate
descriptive
that.
than the one, because she does something similar in the Minotaur book too, but it's more like, "Ooh, I wonder what our child would look like.
Mhm.
Maybe a little bit like this. Maybe he'll
Mhm.
have hair like that." But it's still like,
Mhm.
a baby Minotaur essentially.
I'm well aware that this is just me overthinking it. I know the author did not intend for it to go into body horror. So yeah, that's just me. Anyway, she also figures out that he is nocturnal. They don't have sex, but they make plans to meet up that weekend. She meets with her friend Triss at a coffee shop. He's a satyr and a gossip columnist who gives her advice on getting event contracts with big names in the town. I think this is just some universe building happening here because, as Mara said, there's a lot of detail put into how this universe works.
Yes, so much.
So she
That's
gets
a
back to
lot.
the farm, and Cal tells her that the next day someone from the university is coming by to talk about what they can do to attract pollinators. Grace is like, oh my God, it's him. So she texts him, and he says he was going to surprise her. The next day, she waits until the pollinator meeting is over, and Grace and Merrick go out to pick some ripe blackberries.
Sweet berries.
Yes. So they talk briefly about deeper stuff, flirt, and then she sees his tongue for the first time. It is very long and coiled up somewhere in his mouth or throat, which is why it can like go out so far. They make out and grope before she's like, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't do this where I work."
She says, "Okay."
Where's his tongue when they make out? Do you think it's like still curled up when they're
I
making
think
out, or do
I
you
think
think
with
he
the way
like
they describe it,
unfurls it?
it's mostly still like in his mouth, but it goes far enough into her mouth to not be weird.
Okay,
Yeah.
but still okay. I'm again overthinking it.
He lives in a treehouse in the forest, and she gets a little freaked out with like a minor phobia of the woods. We kind of get some backstory about that. But he leads her in and then flies them up to his place. He checks on the baby hummingbirds he is raising. It's
Oh
very
my
cute.
God, so adorable.
She gets naked because remember, he is naked. And she uses his hand. I had to read this passage a couple of times. She uses his hand to finger herself to orgasm. Then he goes down on her. She comes
Okay.
again because remember, he's got the vacuum tongue.
Yes.
So then
Yeah,
she goes down on him and like, okay. So he has like a dick pouch, which remains locked up tight most of the time. Like you can't like get your hand in there. But then when he's turned on, it like loosens up and like is all slippery. And she describes it as dark pink and shiny, slick with its own lubrication, the top tapered to an angled point with a flat edge to it.
All right. I think we've all seen dogs, right?
Mhm.
This is all I can think about.
Well, yeah, that is what I like. I think I might have originally put it in and then taken it out, and I'm like, we've all seen animal dicks unsheathe.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's a
then I was
dog.
like,
It's a
well,
dog penis, is what it is.
honestly, what I thought of was the movie The Shape of Water. The one of the characters asks the lead, basically, does he have a penis? What is it like down there? And she uses her hands to kind of show that it's covered and it like opens up and it comes out. And so that's just what I imagined.
Yeah. I imagine as you're describing it, those little like flaps that they used to wear instead of like before we had like zippers and stuff, men's pants had like basically just like a flap in the front that they would just unclip or unbutton maybe. That's what I was picturing.
So first thing she thinks is that she's disappointed that he isn't bigger, but like it's fine. But then she realizes it is bigger. It just sort of like gets bigger. It's kind of S-shaped with some like swells in it. Like she thinks that the first swell she sees is the bottom of the penis, but it's not. It's just like the middle. Yeah. So then they get down to penetration. It goes on for a really long time, but he occasionally extends his tongue all the way down to lick at her clitoris.
This is so incredibly
Oh.
detailed, Tabitha.
I know. Yeah.
The next day at work, she shares all the details with Kalea. Grace is incredibly tired and sore. She goes home early and squats over the tub for 30 minutes
Ouch.
to get all of his cum out of her.
What?
There's so much cum.
Okay.
Imagine squatting for 30 minutes.
No.
There's
So
no way
gross.
my American bones can handle
But
that.
okay, she
My
goes.
Northern European bones can do
Well,
that.
hold on though. She goes through an entire day at work and then she goes home and squats out the
Yeah.
cum.
It does actually talk about her leaking throughout the day.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
God. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't love that.
All right. She's into it though. So
She would have to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they go on some
For sure.
dates, and he tells her that moths really only have sex a few times a month because it's such like an event, like a 24-hour event, but that he's happy to eat her out whenever. So that's reassuring, honestly, that she doesn't have to put up with that all the time.
Yeah. Mhm.
Grace frets because she wanted this to be a casual thing. She thought this would be just like a cool thing to do to like get back in the saddle, but she really likes him, and she knows that he's going to leave when his fellowship is done at the university. So she's at the farm working on a wedding, and it suddenly hits her that she's in love with him. She doesn't want him to leave and that she needs to tell him this. So she leaves the wedding, she runs to his place and like clambers up the tree, and she confesses. He's like, I told you I was staying. I'm staying to finish my dissertation here. And she's like, oh, great. And he's like, oh yeah, and I love you too. And that's it. That's the end.
It's
Mhm.
adorable.
It's very sweet.
Okay. Have either of you read this one?
No.
No, we haven't.
I've not read this one. So this is
Oh,
this is all
okay.
new information
Wow.
to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Okay. So I did Moon Blooded Breeding Clinic. And if you are related to me at all and you're somehow still listening to this episode, please stop listening. This is your one warning. If you have any respect for me, please just log off and join us next time. Love you. Okay. So some content warnings. She has content warnings at the beginning. Literally just titled Fertility Issues Galore. That is from the book. There's like miscarriage, talk about being pregnant, breeding, obviously. Oh, big disclaimer, this takes place during COVID.
Oh my God, they had monster COVID.
Oof.
Well, so she puts this disclaimer in here because she says it takes place during COVID, which is actually important to the story. But monsters don't get COVID.
Oh,
it
nice.
only affects humans. But because like humans are the majority, it is still closing everything down. So if you are like not loving that the Panorama ruined everything, don't worry because it is like a kind of like a subplot in this book. So, I already told you I didn't reread this, so if some of these things are inaccurate, apologies, but I procrastinated too hard. Okay, that's all the disclaimers. Let's get on with it. So, as I said, this book starts with the panini, and it gives us a little intro into like what's going on with that, and also our male lead, Lowell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lowell,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Lol. Okay. He is stranded in an airport after flying home because all of the countries are locking down. He's a travel photographer who is based out of Tokyo, and they're like, "Sorry, dude, I know you have a work visa, but like you got to go home or you're never going to be able to go home again because we're locking down." He's definitely got like a tattoo of the word wanderlust and dainty script on his ribs. He loves traveling. It's like his only personality trait.
Is this guy the monster?
Yes.
Okay.
He's a werewolf.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Some more backstory. His dad is like a big shot in Cambric Creek, so everyone knows who his family is, and he's got like 5 brothers. He's also a twin. But none of them pick him up from the airport. And he's like, "Oh, what was me? This is why I never come home. You guys are dicks, and I'm the moody middle child." And I was like, "Oh, scene. Yeah, me too." So then, like, there's actually only 10 chapters in this book, or maybe 5. I can't remember. Each chapter is like Lowell's point of view and then Mariah's point of view. So now we're like a couple months into the panini, and we are with our female lead, Mariah, who is a human. She's at brunch with the girls and has no concerns about pepperoni because the monsters can't get it. So she like doesn't worry about wearing masks or like doing anything because monsters can't catch the vid. She is an interior designer who uses her love of furniture and wallpaper to help her experience the world and travel. Her kitchen is a Parisian cafe, basically, and like each room is like themed over a different country, which I think is like very jarring in a home. But
It does
my
sound
walls
jarring.
are like,
Yeah. It sounds very
yeah,
70s.
my wall. Yes, it does. My walls are like landlord beige, so I can't really complain. Um, Also, she's divorced. Her ex-husband is a big loser lizard guy with 2 dicks, but he didn't like going out. He only liked staying in, and he also didn't really love having sex. Which was a big bummer to her because she loves sex. And so she was like, it kind of worked out fine for a while because he had like 2 penises. So like once one was done, I could hop on the other one. Also, since they're an interspecies couple. Sorry, Mario, you have a face.
I do, because once one was done, she can hop on the other.
So that means he has 2 sets of testicles
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That's kind of I don't remember that being written in the book, but I remember being like, okay,
Righty.
Wow, 4 sets
interesting.
of balls.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. Okay, moving on.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't there's not much ball description for the lizard
Mhm.
man.
Maybe they're
Oh,
Who
internal.
has a name, but I
yeah,
can't
there was
remember it.
ball description galore in the Minotaur book. It was like, we
Mhm.
must discuss
Well,
them at all times.
not for the lizard guy.
Wow.
Just know he's a dick with 2
Gotcha.
penises.
Mhm.
So anyways, they got divorced, and part of the reason why is because they were an interspecies couple dealing with infertility issues, and he was like, I'm over it. So sad for girl Mariah. Anyway, so she's at brunch, and at brunch she finds out her like best friend is pregnant. Like one of their friends lets it slip, and her friend was like, "I'm sorry, I was gonna tell you in person. Like I know how badly you want to have a baby, and you've been dealing with infertility, blah 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 blah." And she's like, "No, no, no. I'm so happy for you, but also I'm just like really sad for me because I want a baby." And like again, I feel seen. Uh So her friends, all my friends are like married, and I'm just like, hey, me and my cat.
This is the perfect
Okay.
book for you,
So
Emma.
her, I know, truly, truly it was. I was like, CM Nascosta, like, do you know me? So, anyways, her bestie explains that actually, since her and her partner are an interspecies couple as well, they were having infertility issues. So she was like, I found this clinic though, and like I got pregnant so fast, you should try it if you still want to have a baby. It's called the Moon Blooded Breeding Clinic. And she was like, oh, okay, tell me more. So her friend is like, so it's an experimental fertility clinic. You take some medicine that puts you into heat, and then you have sex with a werewolf, and like boom, you're pregnant. Okay. um so then once you're in your second trimester, they give you suppressants basically so that your baby doesn't turn out to be a werewolf.
Okay.
Yes. Which there are like a lot of ethical, moral, and like probably cultural implications of suppressing your child's like quote unquote true nature, but we do not get into that in this book.
Okay. Interesting that she doesn't get into it, because it seems to be something she would get into.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like there is like a couple conversations that like briefly touch on this, but like no one gets into it really. Like Mariah was like, I don't really love that we do this, but also like I don't know anything about like raising a werewolf, so I guess that makes sense. And then later on when like Lowell gets involved, he's also like, don't love that. But I guess like this is kind of what I signed up for. I don't know. To me, it kind of feels like if your child is born deaf and then you give it a cochlear implant like right away without anything, like you don't teach it sign language or anything, they're missing out on like capital D deaf culture, and that's sort of how I feel this is what's happening. But we don't really get into it. Like my one thing that I wanted from this book was kind of like more stakes. Like I wanted more tension, angst. I think this would have been a perfect opportunity to like dig in, but we didn't. This is a happy like Hallmark movie of a book. So moving on. So Mariah waffles over like, do I want to be a single mom? It's also like a lot of money to do this. Just kidding. She signs up. So she signs up, they give her the medicine. It's gonna like take a little bit for her to like go into heat at the full moon. So they give her a book of werewolves to choose from, you know, like sperm donors for her to have sex with. And she settles on Lowell because he has a nice smile. He's like the only one smiling. Everyone else is just like football picture. Like, you know, they just like
Sure.
look pissed.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
the terrible, like, I'm a
Mhm.
manly man and I don't smile. Yeah.
Yes. He's the only one who's like, hey, I'm happy to be here. Which this felt like pretty apt for online dating. Like the picture men choose, they're awful.
Yeah, where they're, like, looking in the mirror and they're, like, flexing.
Yeah, a lot of gym
Mhm.
pics, a lot of fish pictures,
Yes, the fish
like them
pictures.
holding up fish. What are other ones that are out there? A lot of picture of like just their dogs or their pets and not them in it.
A dog would be a hard no for me.
Yeah.
Merely being on a dating app is a hard no for me.
Yeah. They're rough, let me tell you. I'll let you go through one if you want. So anyways, just an aside, they also report their semen output for each of the werewolves, and she makes a note. She like gets out a measuring cup to figure out what it is. We don't actually know the ounce or like level or cup measure that we're at, but she does say, and I quote, a lot more than a human dribble, but nothing like a centaur's fire hose. So
Wow.
yeah.
God, imagine it like a fire.
Yeah, kind of like a whale amount, I'm assuming, but,
Yeah,
Just like
Mara.
push you back into the wall.
Oh, gross.
Okay.
Also a lot more than a human dribble. Fuck off.
So, a
Fuck off, monsters. Don't be rude.
humans and bulls are kinda similar.
Yeah.
If you wanna know the truth.
Great. Thank you so much.
Have that in your head now.
I hate that so much. So she decides on Lowell and her friend Lowell, and her friend said that her and her partner talked to the werewolf, who helped her out. So Mariah's like, oh, I should probably meet him. By the way, Lowell signed up for this because he was bored and horny. He's like living with his brother. There's a whole like side plot with him and his family that is like a little bit world building, a little bit setting up his brother's book, and I just like couldn't really get into it, to be honest.
Is this one of the founding families? Because that's something that they talk about in my book.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
He talks about like at one point his dad is like, you need to get like if you want your own plaque, lol, you have to like go out there and do some shit worthwhile or whatever. His dad gives like a very interesting like pep talk to him at the end of the book that's like all over the place kind of. At least in my skim through on the second time. So he's bored and horny, and it's like alluded to that when he was in his werewolf form, he like fucked something, maybe another wolf. Apparently you're like browned out when you're a werewolf in this universe, so he doesn't really seem to know. He just kind of like woke up and he's like, oh, my dick feels weird. So yeah, he's like, I should probably go have sex with something. It's also, he also says that he has a very high sex drive. When he was living in Tokyo, he like had a friends with benefits situation with his neighbor. And as I said before, Mariah also has a high sex drive because that was like one of the only things that she was happy about with the two dicks. So Mariah and Lowell meet up at some coffee shop in the town over because they are both like, I'm not telling a stranger where I live and like my full government name. And they hit it off. So they like talk and chat, and there's some joking about his dick, and he literally whips it out at a public park at one point,
Naturally.
and
Yeah,
she's
perfect.
like Yeah, in a
I hope they're not, I
trance.
hope a school is not anywhere nearby because that'd be a
Yeah, I
problem.
was honestly thinking the same thing. I was like, God, I hope there's no
It's just
playground
like,
here.
no
Like,
playgrounds, you're gonna get on the
no.
list.
Yeah. They also like double park these people who are like catty like gossips, which I loved. um so that was pretty funny. Oh yeah, but she's like, I'm in a trance because your penis is here. Maybe we shouldn't fuck in this park. Let's go to a hotel. So
Oh, so
they
whipping
have
it out in
sex.
public works for her.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it was. It was a right move.
Yeah, it was the right move. So they also like joke. They're like, maybe we should like see if we have like the right chemistry for this to work. And that is like, again, leading into they go fuck at the hotel. So they fuck great. Basically, it worked well. They both enjoyed it. Double thumbs up for them. Mariah leaves before she falls asleep because she's already starting to kind of feel for him. Lowell has real
It's fast.
golden retriever energy. Yeah. He's just like a very nice guy compared to her ex.
Mm-hmm.
And like he's got golden retriever energy. He's like not a himbo, but like he reads a little immature at times. He actually describes himself as 3 children or like 3 toddlers in a trench coat or something.
Okay.
Yeah, she's like a couple years older than him, but like I think I remember him being like late 20s, early 30s. So like he's not 22, but sometimes I'm like, did you
Yeah.
just graduate college? Like what's happening? So,
Okay.
yes. So they meet again at the clinic a few days before the full moon, since that's when heat happens. And I get that it's tied to the moon because, it's like werewolves, but also that has like interesting ramifications for this monster friendly world. Like, do werewolves get extra time off to go through heat and also transform? Because, like, then they're all doing it at the same time. Like, what happens to the workforce? Not to be like pro capitalism, but
Maybe they're just a
most
super minority.
Yeah, maybe. Most of the like the Omegaverse fan fiction is like I read AU fan fiction that's like Omegaverse, like mostly Raylo to be honest. And Omegaverse is like a metaphor for like sexism and patriarchy. So
Mhm.
like the Omegas are discriminated against like doubly for having to
Yeah.
take time off like to raise children and like to go through heat. So
Mhm.
I was like, interesting. We just glossed over it here though. Anyways, they get to the clinic and it's basically like a gynecologist office with like a bed, like a hospital bed.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So they have sex a lot there on different things. Like there's even the little table with the foot stirrups, for a pelvic
Mhm.
exam.
Yeah.
He does think about biting her, which they don't talk about like mate bites at all in here. But he was like, I really want to bite her neck. And I was like, oh, interesting. Lowell has like a little bit of a praise kink. She like says good boy to him all the time and he like loves it. Also they make her put a plug in to keep the semen in until she gets home.
Oh, right. Interesting that they would need to
Tabitha
do
just
that. Just looks away.
Tabitha
Thought
just did
about
like a
leaving the
full
room.
360 in her chair. So,
And here I am
yeah.
thinking to myself, it takes like a quarter of a milliliter to get any creature pregnant, really. It doesn't take a
Yeah.
whole lot of sperm to get the
Yeah.
job done. So you really
Mm-mm.
don't need to do that. But again, what do we need to do in this universe? No, it doesn't
I
matter.
don't know.
None
That
of
seems like
this.
really risking a UTI.
It
Yeah.
does. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Maybe it's different with werewolf semen.
Again,
Maybe
yeah,
it's
maybe.
antiseptic
Yeah.
qualities.
We don't get into it. Her friend tells her like just make sure you wear like underwear you don't care about because like it could like dislodge or whatever.
Okay.
They move on. And then they like continue to text the whole time. It's like very cute. They meet up when she's not in heat and chat and hang out. And they're basically like dating without saying that they're dating.
Mhm.
As I said, their relationship's cute. He's a bit of a baby. And he actually jokes like multiple times, like, hey, Mariah, you don't really need a baby because you can just baby me. I'm a big old baby. I'm 3 babies in a trench coat. Like, just baby me.
Oof.
Lowell's like just a little immature for
Mhm.
him. Like it doesn't, again, I don't remember what his age is, but I don't think he's like 22 and she's like
Okay.
40.
Okay.
One of the things I didn't talk about in my book is that Mothman is, in my opinion, kind of a dick.
Mm.
I would say he's kind of a know-it-all, but that feels like I'm living in a glass house if I say that. Um, but he's kind of a know-it-all, kind of a douche, but she still thinks he's cute, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about Mothman.
Yeah. A lot of my issues with this book are with Lowell's like immaturity and just like, again, I feel a little, as you said, a little bit like throwing stones at a glass house, because he's like, I'm a middle child, no one loves me. And at one point his dad's like, dude, you just like don't reach out. Like you can't just isolate yourself when you're upset. And I had like a mental breakdown this winter when my dad was like, maybe you should tell people when you are feeling sad. And I was like,
Aw.
so it's okay. That's why I go to
Was
therapy.
was that when we had that really bad recording that we had to redo?
Probably.
Yeah.
I was like all shades of fucked up
Yeah.
this
we
winter.
were
So
like, I don't know why that went so bad. And we're just like, all right, we'll redo it.
Emma was going through it.
Yeah, it was a rough day. She blocked us on her social media. It was terrible. Just left the group chat. It was just a weird day.
Mhm.
It was rough. I definitely need to take vitamin D supplements or something in the winter. But anyways, so the relationship is cute. He's a bit of a baby, and he jokes that she doesn't need a baby because she can just baby him. And she actually likes taking care of him, so it works out. Also, they both love having sex, as I said before, so it works out that like it works out that way too. Um yeah, she says multiple times that her ex-husband was like, thank God he had two dicks because he barely like used one. Like he would just basically come and then like roll over and go to sleep. Like he was uninterested.
Mhm.
So she also goes to therapy, and there's a couple chapters in this book, or a couple points in this book, where she's like rehashing some things at therapy, and then while she's having this conversation with her therapist, it cuts to what's happening, like what happened. But either I wasn't paying attention well or something, because I was like, is this happening now, is this happening later? I was confused a little bit with that timeline. So at some point in therapy, she comes to the realization that she doesn't want to be a single mom. She's like still wants a baby, but she doesn't actually want a baby right now. Her therapist is like, maybe you just wanted a baby with your ex-husband so you would have something that both of you loved, since you didn't love each other. Like, oof.
Whoa.
It's a good
That
therapist.
is rough.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Mariah's like, you're right. I just focused on wanting a baby for so long, and I've wanted a baby for so long that I don't know how to focus on anything else. But I don't want this right now. I want to like pursue what's going on with Lowell. And because she's kind of like wish-washy, she's actually been on birth control since like the first time that they had sex at this clinic. So she's sabotaging.
Oh my god.
Wow, you pay all that money.
Whoa.
I
Talk about a plot
know.
twist.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so she's been on birth control like basically since the beginning. And she also doesn't tell Lowell that she's on birth control,
Oh my god.
and that they could just continue seeing each other because they like each other and not because she just wants a baby.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Okay.
So Lowell, yeah.
That's a process. I'm processing. It's fine. We're good. Keep
I
going.
know it's like kind of a, you thought this whole thing was about a baby.
Yeah, I thought
Well,
this was so straightforward, but actually it's much deeper than that. Okay.
mhm. It's kind of like if you think about a metaphor for like when you become a mom, like the rest of your life just like ends, and she's like, I don't know if I want that. Like
Sure.
I want to like experience and live life. Not saying that that's actually what happened to people who are moms
Yes,
and
yes.
that you don't
Thank
have a
you. Thank you
life.
for that. I have
Obviously
a
you do
full
because you're
life,
here.
Emma. Okay.
Yeah. You have hobbies. I'm included in one. Moving on. So Lowell, on the other hand, is also going through a bit of a crisis because he's starting to fall for Mariah, but he doesn't do relationships because he travels so much for his job. As I said, there's like a subplot with his family and like him feeling like the black sheep of the family and that no one loves him. I kept getting their name confused. There was like a Grayson and like a Jackson and like a twin, and there were too many characters introduced at once and I wasn't paying good enough attention. All you need to know is that Mariah eventually finds out who Lowell's family is and that they're like local celebrities in Cambric Creek. And she confronts him, and he's like, listen, everyone knows who my family is. I can't be who I want to be here. That's why I travel for work. And she's like, man, I respect that. I wish I could travel with you when the border's open. And again, he's like, don't have a baby me instead, and we can go travel the world and you be my mommy.
I
And
guess if it works.
If it works, it works. This is what they want.
They're both
Fine.
into it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So she laughs, and then they have sex and confess that they like kind of like each other.
Mhm.
The next day, Lowell finds out that they're opening the monster airlines only. So countries are like allowing monsters to come and travel around, but not humans. So he can travel for work again. He goes to talk to his dad because he's having a mentee bee, and he's like, should I do this? And his dad's like, you need to get your head out of your ass and grow up. Like, your family loves you. They want you to come home. If you want to travel the world, fine, go do that. But like, you have a trust fund. You can use it. Like, also, here's $100,000 from your trust fund. Go out and like live your life and visit your family more.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's
Bye.
got to be nice to be rich.
Dang. Yeah, I was like, oh my
I know.
God.
Yeah.
It's like the way I just like my heart started moving much faster.
I mean, definitely eat the rich, but it's got to be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like, who wouldn't love to have more money? But also, like, fuck that. Fuck Jeff Bezos, really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
And the Kardashians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both of those. Yes.
So, speaking of fucking, Mariah and Lowell fuck one last time. Then he like, I don't remember where they are, but for some reason he has to like go to her house the next day, and he's like, it's very dramatic. He opens the door and she's like, oh hey, and he's like, I'm leaving, and she's like, oh okay, well go have fun. And she's really sad about it. He's really sad about it, but he can't be in a small town when his life is out traveling the world. Like, it's too hard and constricted in this small town. He's got to go out and spread his wings, babe. But like, Mariah, you can come with me instead of staying in the shit town and having a baby.
Oh, but I thought it was a nice town. We like Cambric Creek.
Yeah, we love Cambric Creek.
Well, no, we do like Cambric Creek, but Lowell is the one who wants to go out.
Okay,
and travel, is
fair.
what I'm
That's
saying.
fine.
I don't hate on Cambric. And he's like, don't have a baby. I'll be your baby. And she's like, I actually don't want to have a baby. And he's, of course, flabbergasted because like they met so that he could knock her up, basically. Like, so she could have a baby. And she's like, I actually just want happiness and joy and and maybe a baby in like 5 years. And then the book ends with Mariah and Lowell being dropped off at the airport by his family. Truly full circle.
Okay. Sweet and
Nice.
sweetly nice. Okay.
So we really didn't do a wrap up for this since we didn't all read one consistent story.
Yeah.
I guess I will say for this series that I liked how much thought was put into the world building, even if we didn't necessarily see everything play out. And I like that the romances were very low stakes in these stories.
Yes, they are pretty simple happily ever after stories, with a little bit of a
But with monster penis.
Yeah, with monster penis and a bit of a social conversation.
Yeah.
Which I find fascinating. I think it's interesting that she shoves those into each of her books. Majority culture and
I have to admit, at one point I thought to myself, well, I'm a little disappointed because none of the like lead females are also monsters. And then I remembered that like all romance novels are meant to be self-inserts for female readers.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, right. Okay, I get it. That's why that didn't happen.
Yep.
We are them.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. I've only read this one. I know you two have read the first two.
Yeah.
Have you read another one?
I know there are more in the series. I have not read any more though.
No. And for our listeners, most of them seem to be available on Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah, the majority are.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just looking at her I was looking at CM Nascosta's Threads account, and she just like rented an industrial space to like basically produce her books. Like, it's insane. She's just like, and she has a very thriving business.
Good for her.
Yeah, good for her. I was like, congratulations, CM. Very few people.
I
can
thought
do
this
that.
book was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like if Spencer Books. Spencer Gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oops. I thought it was like if Spencer Gifts and Hallmark Channel wrote an erotic monster novel.
Yes.
Like again, Hallmark Channel, there's lots of conversations they could have about things and they just absolutely don't, because why would we? Like, life's hard enough already.
You know, if the Hallmark Channel was brave enough,
right?
No,
like
where's this going?
it doesn't even have to be erotic. If they just made like a straightforward Hallmark romance, like Christmas romance, but like one of those people in the
Mhm.
romance was Minotaur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think actually people would follow that. I
Yeah.
do. Like they've been starting to get
Absolutely. That's what I'm
weirder. Yeah,
saying.
didn't they have that
Yeah.
KFC romance recently?
Yes, that was the thing. I
What?
don't remember the
Yeah.
context.
Yeah, it was like a KFC romance. I can't. You'd have to look it up, but
Mhm.
it is the KFC. It's like got Colonel Sanders.
Subway. I actually wait, two things
Yeah.
on this topic. Subway has like a K-pop, not a K-pop, but like a K-drama
Oh my god.
series or something. Yeah, if you watch the John Oliver Subway like last week tonight episode,
Okay, yeah.
he talks
I know
about
what you're
it.
talking
It's
about.
hysterical.
Yes,
And then
yes.
second thing, Jack in the Box just started a new marketing, like an ad campaign.
I showed her.
Yes,
I showed
I was
her
gonna say,
the
did you show it
TikTok
to
you
her?
sent
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I
I
sent
saw
them
it.
to Tabitha because Tabitha and I share the weirdest things on TikTok with each other, and I am nice, and I don't want to send you every depraved thought I have about how much cum whales make or
Look,
whatever.
listen.
Um,
I'm gonna do it again.
I'm respecting you.
Well, see, that's the thing is you send them to me and then I filter them to Mara.
Oh well, there you go.
You can send whatever you want.
So
I don't need
Okay.
baby gloves. You can you can give me any.
I'm not trying to baby glove you.
I just don't think you're on TikTok as much as the both of us, so you don't always have the same
no, I don't
context.
I don't get
so.
the same stuff that you do, Sue. That's for sure.
Yeah, so that was us talking about several books in the Cambric Creek series by CM Nascosta.
Nascosta.
Yeah.
Nascosta.
And if you know me and you've lost any respect for me, I've warned you
Yeah.
No.
to not listen.
No.
Yeah.
No one's lost respect for you.
No. In fact, I've gained respect.
I just know my
And we're the only
thanks.
ones who matter here.
Yeah.
That's our listeners matter.
That's true. But you know what? They're not talking to you constantly.
That's true. That's very true. You could message me. I run the TikTok.
Great. Yes, so thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
All right, bye.
More of this
Thanks.
later. Bye.
Bye.